The sun blazed in the sky, casting golden rays over the cracked earth. In a small country town where faith was the foundation of the people lived Eunice, a simple woman with hands calloused by hard work, but a hopeful heart. Since her husband's death, she had faced difficulties supporting her two small children, João and Louise. Every day, Eunice left before sunrise to sell cakes at the market. Her greatest wish was to earn enough money to pay for Louise's treatment, who was born with a heart problem. Despite the hardships, she never stopped looking up at the sky and asking God for an answer. That morning, as she arranged the cakes in her basket, Eunice felt a tightness in her chest. The money was running out, and Louise's medicine was becoming increasingly expensive. With a deep sigh, she murmured, "My God, do you hear me?" She grabbed the basket and left the house, walking along the dirt roads. Upon arriving at the market, she sat on her usual little bench and began offering her cakes. But that morning, sales were slow. Fear grew in her heart. Then an elderly man with grey hair approached. He wore simple clothes, but his eyes had a different glow. "How much is this cake, my dear?" he asked in a calm voice. "2, sir," Eunice replied, forcing a smile. The man took a cake, but instead of handing over just the money, he placed a folded bill in her hand. "God sends a message that he hears you," he said, smiling before walking away. Eunice opened the bill, and her eyes filled with tears. It was 200. She looked around, but the man had already disappeared into the crowd. Her heart raced. Was this the answer she had been waiting for? Eunice squeezed the 200 bill between her fingers, feeling her heart pounding in her chest. That money seemed like a miracle. But who was that man? How did he know about her prayers? She took a deep breath and looked up at the sky, feeling a different peace flood her chest. She carefully put the money in her skirt pocket, silently gave thanks, and continued selling her cakes, now with a new sparkle in her eyes. By the end of the morning, when everything had been sold, she hurried home. She found João playing in the yard and Luis sitting in the shade, watching his brother. "Mom, did you sell everything today?" João ran up to her excitedly. "I sold, my son, and God sent us a blessing today." Eunice went inside and took the money, setting aside enough to buy Luis's medicines and some food. While preparing lunch, she thought about the mysterious man. Could he have been an angel? The next day, Eunice decided to return to the market, hoping to see him again. But no matter how much she looked among the stalls and asked the other vendors, no one knew who she was talking about. "Never seen anyone like that around here, Donna Eunice," said Mr. Giraldo, an old fruit seller. Disconcerted, she went back to her bench and continued her sales. But that day, something even stranger happened. In the middle of the morning, a well-dressed woman with her hair tied in an elegant bun stopped in front of Eunice's stall. She held a small notebook and looked at everything attentively. "Are you the one who makes these cakes?" she asked with a friendly smile. "It's me, dear. Can I help you?" The woman introduced herself as Mrs. Helena, owner of a famous bakery in the neighboring town. She explained that someone had mentioned Eunice's homemade cakes, and she wanted to try them, maybe to sell in her bakery. Eunice was speechless. This was too big to be a coincidence. Could it be another answer from God? With trembling hands, she handed some cakes to Mrs. Helena. The woman smiled and said, "If I like them, I'll be in touch. This could be the start of something very good for you." Eunice felt her eyes fill with tears. In less than 2 days, 2 extraordinary things had happened. She knew God was speaking to her. The following days were filled with great expectation for Eunice. Mrs. Helena had promised to get in touch, but the house phone remained silent. While waiting, Eunice stuck firmly to her routine of selling cakes at the market and caring for her children. One night, sitting on the small porch of her house, she watched Luis sleeping. The boy was breathing with difficulty, and it tightened the mother's heart. She needed that opportunity with Mrs. Helena. She needed a change. Then, in the silence of the night, Eunice remembered the words of the mysterious old man. God sends a message that he hears you. She felt a shiver run down her skin. With teary eyes, she fell to her knees and prayed, Lord, I trust in you. I know you do not abandon me. The next morning, upon arriving at the market, she was greeted by a surprise. Mrs. Helena was there, waiting for her. Eunice, I loved your cakes. I want to place a special order for my bakery, she said with a radiant smile. Eunice's eyes widened. Could this be the beginning of a turning point in her life? My God, you have no idea how much this means to me. Oh, I can imagine, Mrs. Helena replied. But I need 20 fresh cakes for tomorrow. Do you think you can manage? Eunice hesitated. She had never made so many cakes at once. Her kitchen was small, her stove was simple, but then she felt something inside her, a certainty that she should say yes. I can do it, yes. Mrs. Helena smiled and shook Eunice's hand. The deal was sealed. In the following days, Eunice worked hard to buy ingredients and prepare the cakes, but soon she hit a problem. The gas for cooking ran out, and she had no money to buy more. Her heart raced. How would she make the cakes without gas? Desperate, she ran to the house of Donna Lourdes, a dear neighbor. Lourdes, my friend, I need help. The gas ran out and I have a very important order. Without hesitation, Donna Lourdes grabbed a key from the cupboard and said, Use my stove. You've always helped others, Eunice. Now it's your turn to be helped. Eunice felt a lump in her throat. Once again, God was acting through people. That night, while preparing the cakes at the neighbor's house, she heard João whisper to his brother, Luis, I think God is speaking to Mom. Eunice smiled when she heard that. Yes, God was speaking to her and answering at the right time. The next morning, Eunice woke up before dawn. The smell of the freshly baked cakes still lingered in the air. Carefully, she organized the 20 cakes in simple boxes tied with string and asked João to help carry them to the main road. Mom, do you think this order will work out? João asked, holding one of the boxes. Eunice stopped and smiled, running her hand through her son's hair. João, God never lets us down. We just need to trust. Upon arriving at Mrs. Helena's bakery, Eunice was greeted with a smile. Such punctuality, Eunice. Let's see how the cakes are. Mrs. Helena cut a piece from one of the cakes and tasted it carefully. After a few seconds, she broke into a satisfied smile. Perfect. Eunice, you have golden hands. These cakes are going to be a success here. Eunice felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Mrs. Helena paid for the cakes immediately, and the money was enough to cover some debts and buy Luis's medicines. As she walked back home, something unusual happened. A black car stopped beside her, raising dust on the dirt road. A man in a suit got out and greeted her politely. Are you Eunice? Yes, that's me. I work for a client who wants to buy land in this area. It seems your house is on the land he's interested in, and he asked me to talk to you. Eunice frowned. The idea of selling her house didn't make sense to her. That land, though, Simple was her home, the place where she raised her children. I'm sorry, but my house is not for sale, she replied firmly. The man insisted, We can pay very well, ma'am. Maybe this money could help solve some of your difficulties. Eunice hesitated for a moment. It sounded tempting. But then she remembered the prayers she had made and the peace she had felt when deciding to trust God. Thank you, but my answer remains no. The man seemed frustrated but nodded before leaving. Eunice continued her walk home with the feeling she had made the right decision. Upon arriving, she found Donna Lourdes waiting on the porch. Eunice, I need to tell you something, the neighbor said with urgency. Eunice felt her heart race. What happened, Lourdes? There's talk in town that they're going to build a road passing nearby. This could bring a lot of traffic to our region. Who knows, maybe this will help your business. Eunice was thoughtful. A road meant more people passing through. The area, more potential customers. God knows what he's doing, lords. Maybe this is the start of something big. That night, Eunice made a new prayer, thanking for the opportunities that were appearing and asking for wisdom to face the challenges still ahead. But the challenges were far from over. In the following days, the news about the road construction spread through town. People were excited, but there were also rumors that some families might be forced to sell their land. Eunice tried not to worry, trusting that God would guide her steps. Meanwhile, the cake orders started to increase. Mrs. Eleanor not only continued ordering weekly, but also recommended Eunice to other local merchants. For the first time in a long while, Eunice felt she was getting her life back on track. "Mom, now we can buy more medicine for Louise?" João asked while helping his mother in the kitchen. "Yes, my son. And if we keep going like this, maybe we can even save up for his surgery." João gave a wide smile. It was the first time he saw hope in his mother's eyes. However, one day, while returning from the market, Eunice found a note pinned to her door. It was from the man in the black car. "Reconsider our offer. We are willing to pay double the market value for your house. Contact us before it's too late." Eunice felt a chill down her spine. The insistence was strange, almost threatening. She put the note in her pocket and went inside, trying to push away the fear. Later that night, Donna Lourdes knocked on the door. "Eunice, I heard they're pressuring some families to sell their land. Seems that whoever doesn't accept might face problems." Eunice held Lourdes' hands, feeling the weight of worry. "They've already come after me too, Lourdes, but I won't give up what's ours." Donna Lourdes sighed and said, "God is with you, my daughter. Don't forget that." The next day, while selling cakes at the market, something unexpected happened. A young lawyer named Ricardo approached Eunice's stall. He looked determined. "Donna Eunice, I heard that some people are being pressured to sell their land. I work with land rights cases. If you need help, I can represent you." Eunice felt a wave of relief. God seemed to have sent help at just the right moment. "Thank you so much, Dr. Ricardo. If I need you, I will reach out." Eunice went home that afternoon, feeling more at peace. She knew she wasn't alone, but upon arriving, she noticed something strange. The gate was open, and the chickens in the yard were loose. "João? Louise?" she called, entering hurriedly. The children were fine, but the kitchen was ransacked. Someone had entered the house. Eunice looked around, trying to understand what had been taken, but nothing seemed missing. What did the intruders want? Feeling fear tighten in her chest, Eunice knelt on the living room floor and began to pray. "Lord, protect my home and my children. Do not let evil prevail." As she prayed, she felt peace fill her heart. God was there by her side, and she knew she wouldn't give up the fight. That night, Eunice barely slept. The fear that someone would come back to her house left her restless, but she clung to her faith that God was taking care of everything. The next morning, while preparing the cakes to take to the market, she felt a presence at the gate. It was Ricardo, the lawyer. "Donna Eunice, I heard your house was broken into. Are you okay?" Eunice nodded, though her heart was still heavy. "They didn't take anything, but I feel it was a warning." Ricardo sighed and looked around. "These people don't just want to buy your land. They want you to give up. But I don't advise selling. There are rumors that the road will be built very close to here, and in a short time, your land will be worth 3 or 4 times more." Eunice was surprised. "So that's why they're pushing so hard," she murmured. Ricardo adjusted his tie and continued, "I can help you file a preventive action to stop any forced attempts, but you need to trust me." Eunice looked at her children playing in the yard, not understanding what was happening. She took a deep breath and shook the lawyer's hand. "I trust you. Let's fight." In the following days, Ricardo filed for legal protection to prevent any forced negotiations. This brought some peace to Eunice, but the tension in town kept rising. Other families were being harassed to sell their homes. Some gave in, others resisted. At the market, Eunice noticed that some people looked at her differently. There was fear in the air. Then, one afternoon, while returning home, she saw something that made her heart freeze. The small shack where she stored her baking supplies had been set on fire. The flames were still flickering when she ran over, the smell of smoke choking her. Her stock of flour, sugar, and eggs had been destroyed. João and Luis appeared at the door, frightened. "Mom, what happened?" Eunice felt a knot in her throat. This was a warning. They wanted to break her once and for all. She fell to her knees on the ground, feeling the hot tears roll down her face. "Lord, give me strength." That's when she heard footsteps behind her. Donna Lourdes and other neighbors were there. "Eunice, we won't let you stand alone," said Lourdes, holding her hand. Another neighbor, Mr. Geraldo, placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're going to rebuild everything. You're an honest, hard-working woman. You can't give up now." And then something incredible happened. People began bringing bags of flour, eggs, and sugar. Small merchants from the market also helped. In just a few hours, Eunice had enough ingredients to keep working. Eunice looked up at the sky, her eyes still full of tears. "God, I know you are with me." The next morning, Eunice felt stronger. The fire had been a hard blow, but the support from her neighbors and her renewed faith gave her the strength to carry on. She wouldn't give up. As she reorganized her improvised kitchen to resume cake production, she received an unexpected visit: the man from the black car. This time, he didn't come alone. 2 tall men with stern expressions accompanied him. "Donna Eunice, we're trying to resolve this peacefully, but you're making things difficult," he said coldly. Eunice crossed her arms firmly. "I've already said my house is not for sale." The man gave a cold smile and took a step forward. "You know, accidents happen. A house catches fire. One of your children gets hurt. It would be a shame if something like that happened." Eunice felt the blood drain from her face. They were threatening her children. Before she could react, a strong voice echoed through the yard. "If I were you, I'd think twice before continuing this conversation." It was Ricardo, the lawyer, accompanied by 2 police officers. The man from the black car slowly turned, his expression shifting from confidence to alertness. "Any problem, doctor?" he asked, trying to disguise his irritation. Ricardo pulled some papers from his pocket. "I have here an order for investigation into coercion and threats against landowners in this area. The police already have witnesses and reports about the pressure and the fires. I advise you and your companions to turn around now." The silence was cutting. The men exchanged glances, realizing they had been cornered. "This isn't over," murmured the man from the black car before getting into the vehicle and disappearing down the road. Still trembling, Eunice looked at Ricardo and the police officers. "They won't come back," Ricardo smiled. "Not after the police start investigating. Justice will take care of them." Eunice closed her eyes for a moment, letting relief and gratitude wash over her. God had sent help once again. That night, as she watched her children sleeping peacefully, Eunice knelt by their bed and prayed, "Lord, today I understood, when fear knocks at the door, faith answers. You never abandon us." And finally, Eunice slept in peace. The weeks passed, and the investigations against the men who tried to expel the families from the area advanced. Eunice remained firm in her work, and her cakes became a great success. With the growth in sales, she was able to pay all of Luis's medical appointments and finally scheduled her son's surgery. On the day of the operation, she held the boy's hand and whispered, "God always answers at the right time, my son." The surgery was a success, and Luis could run and play like never before. Over time, Eunice expanded her business, built a small, larger kitchen at the back of her house, and hired other local women to help her. Her story spread, and people came. to admire her not only for her strength, but for her unwavering faith. One afternoon, while organizing cakes for delivery, a gray-haired man with a kind gaze stopped in front of her house. Eunice's eyes widened. It was the gentleman who had given her the 200 at the market long ago. "Sir, I never forgot what you did for me," she said, moved. The man smiled. "I only did what God told me to, and he still has many plans for you, Eunice." Before she could say anything else, he calmly walked away down the road, disappearing into the dust. Eunice smiled, feeling her heart warmed. God spoke to her all the time, through people, through miracles, and through her own courage. That evening, at sunset, she looked up at the sky and repeated the words that had changed her life. God always answers at the right time. Have you ever lived a moment when everything seemed lost, but the answer came at the right time? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be the miracle someone needs to hear today. What did this story teach you? How has God spoken to you in difficult moments? Let's create a chain of faith and hope here in the comments. Don't let this message stop here. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that God never abandons us. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more heart-touching stories that strengthen the soul.